Okay,
Okay.
so shall we get started? Yeah, so my name is Joanne Garenzer and I'm the Executive Director of the Eden 2 programs. We are giving it our best shot today to do an annual meeting. We were just saying that our attendance is better today than when we actually have live annual meetings. So welcome everybody. I just want to go over some quick things. We have a lot to do today and we want to save time at the end where we can enjoy chatting with each other a little bit like we do at the annual meeting when we're all together. Just a couple things. One is we are taping this and we're also attempting to live stream it on Facebook. You know, most of you, I'm sure at this point are Zoom experts, but just to remind everybody, if you're not talking, it's really best to stay muted so that everybody can hear the person that is speaking. If you have a question, we are going to take time for questions, hopefully after our guest speaker. Unmute yourself. Don't forget to unmute yourself to ask your question and then remute yourself when you're done. We're going to go back and forth between live speakers and videos, so be patient with us. I think we have it down. For those of you, there's a lot of different features. One is when we have speakers speaking, it's really best if you watch that in speaker view, which is up on the top right-hand corner. Then when we're all gathering around talking, it's best to be in gallery view. This way you can see everybody's faces. There's the chat box on the bottom. If you have a question at any time that you just want to ask, it's quickest to put the question in the chat box. We will be monitoring the chat box and try and make sure we answer your questions at some point, but we will have time for live questions down the road. Let's see if I forgot anything. If you haven't had a chance to put your name and your organization in the chat box, if you could do that, that would be really helpful. And I think that's all I have right now. So what I am going to do is introduce our board chair, Adrienne Abbate, who's going to just give a few remarks.
Okay, thank you so much, Joanne. Can everybody hear me? Thumbs up. Awesome. Okay, so I wanted to just start off by thanking the planning committee who worked really hard to make this annual meeting more interactive and interesting than the majority of the Zooms that we've all been part of these past few months. I feel like it's no exaggeration to say that many of us have been experiencing Zoom fatigue. So it's really heartening to see 50 people who are joining us today. So the planning committee is Joanne, who you just heard from, Eileen Schumard, Carol Bullock, Eileen Sorkin, Laura Dellen, and then our fearless leader, Sharmila, who I think has been working continuously since March. We're all worried about her, but she's just been incredible. I became board chair right around that time. It was in March when the pandemic was first hitting. I feel like at that time, many of our members, many of you guys who are here today, were scrambling and wrestling with questions like, should we cancel in-person meetings? Do we even have remote work policies? What is Zoom, right? Can you remember a day before, like a time when we didn't know what Zoom was? And what happened was the members shared the policies that they had, or they held trainings for each other on what virtual meeting facilitation could look like. The issues rapidly evolved in terms of urgency. They started to focus on HR. How do we furlough staff? What does solvency mean when our revenue has been reduced so dramatically? How do we keep the essential workers that are still out there providing services safe while flattening the curve? And here's where we saw the leadership from COAD and our medical ecosystem step up, connecting us with the needed supplies to provide services and advocating for dollars from every level of government. The Borough President's Office has been a critical partner in all this work. And then the membership itself, it connected us with programs and grants like the PPP. And then for those of us who were lucky to receive the PPP, how do we use those dollars, right? There are so many unknowns and we couldn't have navigated those waters without each other. So now we're entering into the recovery phase. What does it look like? We're cautiously opening up and we're taking a full account of the impact of the pandemic. And I think when it first started, it felt so global and universal. We thought it would be the great equalizer. Everyone was going to be impacted the same way. But what we actually saw was greater mortality among our Black and Brown communities across the island and across the country. So COVID, coinciding with racial justice, really has brought many critical issues to the forefront in our community. But I think it has also created opportunities for our networks of nonprofits to do some reflection and ask questions about how do we better better respond to the needs of the communities, including communities of color, and how do we support our employees during these difficult times. So what we've learned, regardless of the crisis, Superstorm Sandy that actually brought us together and had us coalesce into a membership organization, or COVID, even whatever's happening in our community, that nonprofits are the lifeblood. We are nimble in how we can respond to emerging needs, but we are also fragile, and we need the scaffolding and the supports of membership organizations like the Staten Island Not-for-Profit Association to access the expert content, to get best practice exchange from each other, and just to have other peers either to commiserate or to celebrate with. So we can't do the hard work of providing these services or the rich cultural events without each other. And I look forward to another year as board chair of working with all of you to ensure that our collective efforts have the best possible chance of success. So here's to another year of programming across Staten Island. So now I'm going to hand it off to Carol to introduce our keynote speaker. Is that correct? Are you ready?
All right, great. Thank you, Adrienne.
I'm
Good
not 100%
afternoon.
sure he's on yet. Is he on, Donald?
He is connecting now, but I don't see him just yet.
Okay, so Carol, take a good long time to introduce him.
Okay, I'll start with Happy Pride.
Happy
How
Pride.
about that? So good afternoon. My name is Carol Bullock. I'm the Executive Director of the Pride Center of Staten Island. And I have the pleasure of introducing our keynote speaker today. Comptroller Scott Stringer is New York City's Chief Financial and Chief Auditing Officer, an independently elected official. He safeguards the city's fiscal health, roots out waste, fraud, and abuse in local government, and ensures that municipal agencies serve the needs of all New Yorkers. He also oversees the city's $200+ billion public pension system. During the years as comptroller, Scott has fought for local nonprofits and community-based organizations, from hosting meetings and town halls on Staten Island, shedding light on delayed city agency contracting, and elevating the voices of our frontline workers at nonprofits. He knows not-for-profits are a vital part of the city's communities and economies, providing key religious, cultural, medical, and social services that would often go unfulfilled in their absence. Over the last 2 decades, Scott has been a champion for policies like a $15 minimum wage. He's advocated for affordable housing, worked to strengthen the city's fiscal health, and promoted open, transparent government. Born and raised in Washington Heights, Scott was elected to the New York State Assembly in 1992, where he represented Manhattan's West Side for 13 years. In 2006, he became Manhattan Borough President and was elected Comptroller in 2013. So it's my pleasure to introduce Comptroller Scott Stringer.
Well, Carol, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for that generous introduction. And I have enjoyed partnering with you and the work that you do, and all the people in Staten Island who work every day for the city of New York. And I want to recognize my eyes and ears on Staten Island, Donald DeRosa, who I really couldn't do this work without his sense of how we can make things better on Staten Island. So I want to thank him as well. And I wanted to come on today and just really reiterate what I really believe to my core, is that New York City really could not function and provide the critical services for children, for seniors, for people who struggle without our not-for-profit network. It really is a sight to see, especially during this pandemic. The amount of frontline workers who are out there every day associated with not-for-profits, who are literally risking their lives, making sure seniors have enough to eat, making sure children are getting fed, and also fighting for social justice that has become the beacon of what's possible, not just in this country, but right here in New York City. And if there's anything that we know, is that city government is only as good as the not-for-profits we invest in. And that is why we've collaborated over the years to show City Hall that the best way you can contribute to helping people is to get out of the way and give nonprofits a clear shot to do the work they have to do. And that is why I have said, in terms of the contracting process, that we need to have real procurement reform. We cannot continue to delay payments to not-for-profits, especially when they have to take out loans, sometimes for years, just to stay afloat because a city agency can't get the contract registered. This has to stop. And we saw this in the midst of the pandemic when suddenly many of the groups on this phone, on this call and throughout the city were told, well, we're going to not pay you anymore, even though you were in mid-contract. And we said, hey, that's not right. And that's not smart strategically, and it has no bearing on the economy. So I just wanted to come on today and just reiterate to all of you that we are an ally in your fight. I'd rather see all of you spend time not worrying about when the next payment is coming, but rather how we can strategically think about helping the people who are struggling in the city. That is your job, and government has to help you do that. And having said that, we have to also realize that in the midst of all this, part of what we have to think about in the future is the challenge of fighting the virus and wisely opening up the city economy. And how we do that will determine how we protect our people, but also reignite our economy. We have to reimagine what the city is going to be about, whether it's our streetscape or the landscape of community service. I will tell you that the task that we face is daunting. Unemployment in the city now is 18.3%. We just released these numbers, up from 15%. In communities of color, we now see an unemployment rate of 25%. And among kids, teenagers, young people, the unemployment rate is now 35%. So step one, don't cut summer jobs for youth because they need that money and their parents need the help. You also can't constrict or threaten to furlough city workers, frontline workers, the people who are helping every single day. And lastly, we have to also imagine how we conquer what is now, I think, something that's been pretty obvious, which is the health disparities in so many of our communities. You know, this virus really discriminates. It goes after the people who are most vulnerable, the people who have underlying health conditions, and it tends to go to the communities that have been underserved by government. And my mom passed away from COVID on April 3rd, and she passed away in a Bronx hospital. So I had a lot of time to talk to the doctors there, and part of me felt that this was a virus that just attacks our grandparents and parents, and that a lot of people were going to lose our very elderly population. The doctor said to me, don't think of this as an older person's disease, because in the Bronx, the people who are dying are in their 50s and 60s because they have type 2 diabetes and they have underlying obesity issues. And government has got to not just manage disease, but we actually have to invest in communities to solve some of these problems. And I believe that's where you all come in, because you are the front line in so many of these communities, and we're going to need your brain power and your skills, because we can no longer manage people through this pandemic. It's going away, but something else is going to replace it. And maybe it's time to budget differently, imagine the city economy differently. And when you hear the young people out in the streets protesting for social justice and real systemic change, this is a moment for our city, for all of us to just think differently about what's possible. So I'm just glad to be here with all of you to say, keep it up. Staten Island is truly a great place. My family and I spent time on Staten Island. I've learned to really love the people in this borough. Everyone thinks it's the forgotten borough, but we all know it's actually a very important borough for our city. And I think everybody knows it's worth investing and expanding in. So I have time for a couple of questions. If you don't have questions, I know you have a long agenda, but I really wanted to come on, Carol, and just say hello and realize that better days are yet to come.
Thank you so much. So don't forget, you can unmute yourself if you want to ask a question, or if you're nervous, you can just type something in the chat box.
Hi, it's Eileen Fuchs from Snug Harbor. How are you?
Hey, Eileen. I think you have to unmute.
Unmute, Eileen. You're still muted.
I don't, no one can hear me?
Now we can. Hi.
Oh my gosh, okay.
Sorry.
Hi, all I wanted to say was that we don't call it the forgotten borough anymore. We call it the unexpected borough.
I've never called it the forgotten borough, but some politicians have forgotten the borough.
Yeah, but we love unexpected, so use it.
I like it. Okay, fair enough. Point made.
Thanks.
Any questions while we have the controller's full attention?
Yes. Hi, Mr. Scott Stringer. Thank you so much. My name is Jacqueline Taccarante, and I'm an MWBE here on Staten Island, JMT Media. We work and support almost every single one of the nonprofits that are on here. So I'm very, very proud and privileged to be on this call. I appreciate it. So I wanted to ask, because as an avid supporter and researcher, I subscribe to your Scott Stringer's Making the Grade, the report card. And so last year, the city awarded $20.5 billion in contracts in fiscal year 2019, of which only less than 5% were actually awarded to MWBEs. So my question is, how do you plan on helping MWBEs that support nonprofits looking at the next fiscal year?
Jacqueline, it's a great question. You know, we letter grade all the city agencies based on their actual spend with women and minority-owned businesses, and it's really incredible that we're just at a little under 5% of spend given the procurement process. And we hold these agencies accountable, and that's why, for the first time in the city's history, I appointed Wendy Garcia as our city's chief diversity officer. And here's what we're doing now in the midst of this pandemic. You know, we know that the businesses that are most likely to be in trouble are the ones that don't have resources to access federal, state, and local grants, don't have the infrastructure. That's true at not-for-profits as well. And we are doing weekly webinars with Wendy for MWBEs. We call it MWBE University. Attendance is mandatory. You don't get a grade though. And then we're really working with our office to try to get help to the MWBEs. So what I can do, and Donald can do this, is get Wendy on with you. Perhaps we could do an MWBE webinar just for Staten Island.
That would be fantastic.
Or to come to the larger group. We've helped, like, I think 1,500, maybe 2,000 businesses. And this is from the controller's office. But it gets to the point of, at what point do we fully invest in MWBs? And the reason we have to do it economically is because once you get certified as an MWB, doesn't mean you get a contract from an agency. But if you got a contract from an agency, it's like a good stamp of approval. That means you can go to any other private industry business and say, look, I'm doing work for the city of New York. They screen me, they investigate me. Like, it's good to be an MWB with city business. The problem is we're not moving enough of that business to our communities. And I have fought for this, as you know, for many years, but you know, it's time to change this fundamentally. We have a lot of recommendations. I do believe we need an MWB chief diversity officer that sits next door to the mayor, because only City Hall and working with city agencies, you've got to have an MWBE diversity officer, because breaking up contracts, thinking strategically about contracts is the only way you're going to help the small business people, the not-for-profits, and the women and minority-owned businesses who just don't have the same capital and the same operation. Someday they will, but only if we invest in them.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So Donald, let's reach out to Jacqueline.
Sounds good.
Controller, I have a quick question.
Hi, John.
Thanks for being here, by the way. I appreciate it.
Okay.
So, you know, there was I run a social services education program, and they did a survey of all of our providers throughout the city, and most of it, almost 75%, had less than 1 month's cash on hand. This was pre-COVID. So the cash and the ability to front all this money for contracts and having to pay it in order to get it is going to become next to impossible going forward. So I understand that there's reform coming, but for me, for example, I have $1 million grant that I'm sitting on 5 years now. I mean, that's killing us. But even the smaller ones, the 5,000 and 10,000, it's going to get harder and harder for non-for-profits who have no cash on hand to be able to manage these. I just wondered what you thought about that.
Well, first of all, why would not-for-profits have cash on hand, right?
Right.
You spend what comes into the services. You're not a for-profit institution, and the city doesn't recognize that. I do think it's been a disgrace that non-for-profits have had to wait for city contracts to be registered to get you the money, and you end up taking out loans and risking the entire organization. It's not a contract that's not guaranteed to come or the money come. And it's put nonprofits in a very precarious situation. We have waged total war with the administration over this. And I do think, especially in COVID, we have to make sure that the non-for-profits are held harmless to actual delivery of some of the work we can't do now. So we have to waive that and think like that. I can assure you of this, Joanne. We are going to challenge the administration on your behalf every single day and every step of the way. I can tell you when contracts come to my office, they are registered way before the 30-day timeline. I understand the urgency of now. The only time we really don't register a contract if we suspect, you know, some very serious fraud issues, but you wouldn't want me to register that contract. But we are trying to break down the bureaucracy. Lisa Flores, who's our deputy director for contracts, has really done a magnificent job on your behalf. And if you have specific issues, then you need to call us. And if you have specific issues, you need to call us and we will get in touch with the administration.
Thank you.
We have a question from Michael DeVito. He raised his hand. Michael, do you want to unmute yourself?
Actually, Comptroller, thank you so much. That was my question that Joanne just asked. So I concur and I support all of that. I see all the smiling faces. And I would say thank you for just being on our Fund Youth NYC call and for speaking to our young people. I promise, sir, I'm not following you around.
Well, Michael, well, first let me say hello to Sharmila, who I didn't see. I just now see all of you. Wow, hi, everybody. You get around, Michael. You know, I've been bouncing around today. No, thank you. Look, the one thing I would say is that we do face a real budget crisis. The budget deficit's $1.6 billion, but let's not be fooled. The mayor and the council can close this budget without threatening workers, without threatening young people. The fact that they're holding the summer jobs program over the heads of parents and kids is mind-boggling when you look at the data. These kids need these jobs. And there's enough in the reserves. There's refinancing that I've said to the mayor I would do. It's time for them to just all grow up and just do the work that they have to do. Find the efficiencies in the city agencies. You know, they haven't done a PIG program for 7 years. There is fat in every city agency. I'll give you an example. When we said to the mayor, cut 4% so we don't have to cut vital programs and we don't have to cut workers, but let's look at all the big outside contracts, money that's not been spent. I took a look at my office and I'm telling you, we're a $100 million budget, 780 employees, a $200 billion pension fund. It took me, and I'm not trying to be a hero here, 10 minutes to give back $3 million, right? 3%. Because what did we see? Oh, we had a contract sitting over here, contract sitting over here. We're not going to use it, send it back. Then I did an exercise and said, let's do a 4% permanent decrease in the controller's office. That took a few days. We didn't have to fire anybody. We didn't have to furlough anybody because we haven't done these savings exercises. So if the mayor would simply do that, they would realize the savings so they don't have to go to these extremes, and they still won't do it. So, you know, part of what we have to do is say, you're not going to cut programs for children. You're not going to furlough frontline workers. And, you know, we have a stimulus package we have to fight for on the federal government. We haven't even seen that yet. So I just want to bring everybody's blood pressure down and speak truth to power over this. If I thought, and if it happens next week or the week after, if I think for a moment we are going in a direction that gets us to a crisis, then I'd be the first one to get on the phone with all of you and say, hey, full stop, let me tell you what's going on. But the mayor hasn't even had that conversation with nonprofits and kids and community.
Controller Stringer, hi. Jeff Finkel from Mutual of America. I think we've met over the years. I know you've met a million people.
Oh, hi.
First of all, very sorry about your mother.
Thank you.
I hope you have a lot of great memories to help
I
you
do.
through. Quick question. There's been talk back and forth. There's been, you know, the PPP is a moving target, right? It came out. There's been extensions. I guess, what do you see by way of either a next round, or is there any more relief, whether PPP or not, you know, to small businesses? I was just wondering if you had any feedback about that.
You know, I don't know for sure, but my sense is that there will be another PPP round. I think it has to be targeted and done a little differently so everybody can access it. That's why we're doing the MWBE webinars. But look, as much as we know, we will get to you, Jeff, as best we can.
Okay, thank you. Be well, be safe.
Thank you, too. Thank you.
Joanne, do we have time for just one more?
Yeah, we'll take, this will be our last
A
question.
last question. Okay, go ahead, Fern.
Hi, everybody. First of all, thank you, Mr. Stringer, for being here. And it's so good seeing all of your faces. I've been off of Staten Island for the last year or so, and it's just wonderful being connected. I'm Fern Zager. I was the former CEO at the Staten Island Mental Health Society, which was recently acquired and merged into Richmond University Medical Center. And now I have my own consulting firm. And my question really is what I'm hearing from a lot of the people that I'm working with and concerns about discretionary funds from the city council dollars. You know, it's hard enough, as you well know, once you get the funds to get the contracts registered and to get the funds in some reasonable way. And most of the time, the not-for-profits have to foot the bill until the monies start coming. Now we're in even a more awkward position because we really don't know whether on July 1st, the programs that have been supported by discretionary dollars will continue to get funding. And we might not know, we hear, until August, September, maybe even later. I don't know if that's the case and if you have more information about it. But as you can imagine, there's tremendous concern. And to keep programs going, agencies may have to take the risk of paying for those programs prior to hearing if the discretionary dollars will be there to support those programs. I wonder if you have any information or even advice about how to move forward.
You know, I am concerned about the negotiations on the budget between the city council and the mayor. And I'm going to try to urge them as best I can to be as transparent and as reasonable as possible, and to get a deal done that doesn't hurt our social infrastructure network and our not-for-profits, and to be forthcoming. We have to get through this fiscal year, get a stimulus package, and slowly open the economy. But we also can't sink our not-for-profits while this is going on, and I don't think we should be in that situation. So to me, it's a little unclear because, you know, I'm not involved in the budget negotiations. I did testify over the years in the city council, and I said, you know, in good times, save more money. And 7 years ago, we had 18% of spend saved. We went down to 8%, 8.9%, and they didn't save. And in fact, I went to the council in February and I said, you know, you got a flush budget. Can you put more money away? And the reason you want to put more money away is we never know what's going to come our way. That was the end of February. I had no idea what was coming. Nobody did. But it's a lesson about how you budget. And I wish we had more money that would secure the member items. But I will work with you to make sure that we cut through the bureaucracy.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming.
Great, everybody. All right, be safe, Staten Island. I will see you soon. And thanks for giving me the opportunity. Bye.
Thank you.
Take care.
So we are now going to hear a few words from our electeds. The quality of some of these are better than others.
Hey everybody, Max Rose here. I wanted to thank you all for having me, and I want to just take a brief moment to thank you all for the incredible work that you're doing for Staten Island. You know, before I came to Congress, I was the Chief of Staff at Brightpoint Health, which under its umbrella is the Community Health Action Network of Staten Island, led by Diane Arnett, who I consider a mentor and family. So I've seen firsthand the incredible things that we can do when we're not worried about the bottom line, when we're not worried about quarterly returns, but we are motivated by wanting to help and to serve our neighbors, by wanting to help and serve those who need it the most, those who can't afford lobbyists, who don't have the 5 million Twitter followers, who don't have the endless bank accounts. You know, while this is an incredibly rewarding pursuit, I know how demanding this can be. None of you work 9 to 5s. None of you. You take your work home with you, and it is a burden that you all have welcomed, but it's incredible. You all are facing so much pressure, not just from the work itself, but also the pressure to raise awareness, to raise funds, to continue your services. I know it can feel like you have to compete against other organizations who are doing incredible work and who you also want to succeed. There's no reason, though, for us to be pitted against each other. That's what makes today so special. Seeing all of you come together, working to move the entire sector forward, because when one of you succeeds, we all do. When the patient, when the client succeeds, we all do. Your work doesn't ever get the recognition it deserves. But I want you to know that at least in the halls of Congress, it is not going unnoticed. Thank you all so much again. Keep up the incredible work. Keep on asking your patients and your clients, not what's the matter with you, but what matters to you, as I know you all do. And please know that if there's anything I can do to support you, just reach out, and I'm behind you 100%. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
Quick thank you. Quick but heartfelt. We often talk about Staten Island, having to take care of Staten Island, and in various ways, to various degrees. We saw that recently with COVID. I want to thank everybody at the Staten Island Not-for-Profit Association for your collaboration, your partnership, for all the great things that you've done the last few months in particular. It is appreciated. So on behalf of the Borough Hall family, on behalf of 500,000 folks that we represent at Borough Hall, just wanted to say a really big thank you. Keep doing what you're doing. Stay safe. Peace.
Hello, friends. This is Assemblyman Mike Cusick. I want to just say hello to all my good friends at the Staten Island Not-for-Profit Association. And thank you for all the hard work you do for us here on Staten Island throughout the years, and in particular during this time that we're going through right now with the COVID pandemic. Your jobs are selfless. You're out there helping everyone in our neighborhoods, in our families, whether you're culturals or healthcare or helping our seniors or helping our children. You're all doing the work in protecting our families and our great borough of Staten Island. And particularly in these hard times, you've stepped up. You've stepped up and you continued to fight for our neighbors and our families. And for that, I am eternally grateful. And on behalf of all the people that I represent in the 63rd Assembly District, I want to give you a heartfelt thank you. Thank you for all your work. Thank you for what you do. And thank you for your love of this great borough of Staten Island.
Okay. And now I would like to introduce our executive director, who has been amazing and working the job of 3 people. Sharmila, you're up. You're muted.
Can't hear her.
Yeah, I don't know why you're still muted, Sharmila. I know it doesn't look like you're muted on the.
How about now? There we go. Okay, sorry about that. I was just going to start by saying good afternoon and thank you for all your patience and flexibility as we're testing lots of new technology today. So far, how's it going? I have to say I'm impressed. Team annual meeting committee, you've been incredible. So as many of you know, I am the newish executive director of the Staten Island Not-for-Profit Association. I had been directing the Staten Island COAD since last year. The COAD is Community Organizations Active in Disaster. And I want to say, if you haven't heard of us by now, reach out to me separately because I'd love to tell you about all the work that Coalition has been doing. I couldn't be more honored to have been appointed by our stellar board leadership to lead the association right now. I'm honored to be back in Staten Island. I grew up here. To be working with this amazing board and all of you, the incredible leadership you bring to truly deeply and needed meaningful work in our communities and beyond. I've been involved on the philanthropic side of the sector for many years, as well as in the field, working on programs, communications, outreach, and leadership development. I'm truly excited for what I think we can do together. To bring my experience and networks and resources back to Staten Island is really special for me. My father, who passed unexpectedly when I was in college, was a typical Indian dad, if you will. He wasn't the one that would play ball with us out in the yard, but he always made sure that we had what we needed to pursue academically, of course, but he also instilled in me a true love of learning and giving, driven by curiosity and to be a seeker always of information and knowledge. So to be in this role where we are building the capacity of the nonprofits on Staten Island, to be able to help you build your own leadership and advocacy skills is, like I said, very special to me. The quote, good, better, best, never let it rest until your good is better and your better is best, was one I always used to describe words I think he would have spoken to me if he could still. Well, these recent months working here at the association and with our COAD and our nonprofits through COVID response and the continued fight for equity, I often heard, don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. What does that mean? Well, to me, that means regardless, sometimes we just have to go for it. We don't have time to make it the best. We have to just jump in and try it. Do whatever we can to make whatever we can happen. I'm naturally risk averse, but I've been tested in ways beyond I can put into words in recent years and of course these recent months. And if this crisis and is what is happening in our country around the continued fight for justice and equity has shown me anything, it's sometimes you have to do just that. Try and not be afraid to fail. The tenet, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything, has been playing in my mind on repeat lately. And as I've taken over as executive director of this association, I'm holding true to that. I've also heard plenty in these recent months, this too shall pass. And while that may be true, it takes a passive sentiment, a backseat approach to the work that's not only needed, but that so many of you are already doing. That's not a lens I'd ever use to describe our sector. So I ask that we don't just let anything happen. We all have a role, a place that we can actively take action. While it's tempting to talk just about the work the association, all of you and our community organizations active in disaster have been doing over these past 4 intense months, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the leadership of our interim executive director, Gary Bernstein, in bringing some wonderful programming to the island, including several workshops on fundraising and technology, on board governance, rejuvenating our peer groups for leaders in the sector, and especially in launching our inaugural Emerging Leaders Institute this past January in partnership with Wagner College's Department of Lifelong Learning. Nearly 30 emerging leaders, many of you are here today, participated in a day-long program and workshop and panels to delve deeper on how to advance to the next level in your careers. We also enhanced our communications in this last year, including member spotlights in our newsletter and our website. We're on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook even more. We reestablished partnerships with Candid, the Support Center, and Nonprofit New York, our umbrella membership organization. For those of you that haven't yet, I highly encourage you to check out their resources, their website. Without them, we couldn't have been doing the advocacy work that we've been doing these last 4 months through COVID. They have been an incredible partner. And as many of you know, if you've been reading our emails, they're offering a free membership right now to Staten Island not-for-profit members. So if you haven't already, please take us and them up on that offer. You will not be disappointed. This year, as you all know, the COVID-19 pandemic has completely taken the focus off of much of the work we would have all been doing together. However, as they say, crisis is the mother of invention. I've seen our leaders, our nonprofits in social services, arts and culture, the environment, healthcare, medical, human services, across the board, every type of nonprofit, every one of you has taken from this disruption and created innovation. When they say pause, the governor, the mayor are talking about the pause we've taken. Well, this has been an opportunity for us to pause for some, and for others to move more quickly and deeply than we ever have before. That's not only dedication and commitment, caring and love, it's leadership and resilience. That ability to bounce back, to keep going, that's what you all have been doing as our community's leaders. The way that our COAD, the meaningful partnership we've had with our Borough President's Office, with support from all of you, our members, our partners, our sponsors, and hundreds of donors, including the Staten Island Foundation, our medical community, including hospitals and nursing homes, the primary care doctors, as well as our frontline social service, human service, and healthcare providers. The way that you all have responded, and now we're addressing recovery, that is resilience. Many of you who've been members or part of this community for many years know that every May we host an annual conference. This year we couldn't do it. The theme of that conference, our 10th annual, 10 years, can you imagine, was 2020 and beyond, preparing for a decade of nonprofit resilience and strength. We're still going to have the conference, and we'll hear a little bit later about that, but we will now continue to address that theme through a series of virtual opportunities that we'll be making available to members later this year. Admittedly, it's been hard for me to be hopeful lately as the hits keep coming to our organizations, to our communities, and our families. But today I want to leave you with just that. Some words of encouragement and a little bit of energy to just keep going, a little bit more, a little bit further, a little bit deeper. Our work can and must be bold, deep, and broad. And while we work tirelessly, it must also include time for rest and to build resilience. We cannot survive in the scarcity model and this nonprofit starvation cycle of yesteryear that Comptroller Stringer addressed in his remarks. So we usually have this annual meeting to celebrate all this great work, and so I ask you today to celebrate each other, to celebrate our communities, and to not only do that, but to take a moment to think about what you can do today, tomorrow, with what you have from where you are. Our mission is to support our borough's nonprofits, providing guidance, interpretation, perspective, resources to help you build your capacity to do your work, our work, more effectively and efficiently. As we continue to ready ourselves for what's ahead, and I know they are still filled with many unknowns, know that we are here to support you. We are grateful and humbled to have you as our members and partners to continue to learn together. Remember, change moves at the speed of trust. You have mine. I hope that we have yours. If you want to go fast, go alone. But if we want to go far, we are going to go together. Thank you all for joining us today and being on this journey for us. I'm really looking forward to the year to come together.
Awesome.
You all.
Thank you, Sharmila. So we asked members to submit videos just so that people could get to know more about our organizations. We did get a number of videos. We have a lot more to do. today before our meeting is over, so I'm only going to probably be able to play a few, but we will be sending out weekly or bi-weekly virtual newsletters or something. Somehow we are going to push these videos out because they're really great and I really want you all to see them. So I'm just going to play a few right now.
Gentlemen, the PANAF Center as an umbrella organization is dedicated to promote and forge human capital development, empowerment, and self-sufficiency by bringing strength, truth, solidarity, and sharing spirit into training and capacity building programs. The main goal is also mobilizing African diaspora competencies, initiatives, and experiences to build a powerful collaborative synergy that is a solid foundation for our common progress, leading to a shared prosperity for all. The initiative aims also to enhance a social change mission via interactive meet-up, strengthening collaboration between African immigrants associations, creating networking links with other communities. Establishing the PANAF Center, a center for best practices innovations, would also serve as a remotely training site from which communities could receive training by being updated within norms in terms of management to adapt to these moving fast technology sciences and contribute more efficiently to our moving forward movement. The final great challenge and commitment to merit will be establishing the PANAF Center as an institution to launch this dynamic community building movement to reinforce Staten Island economic and social vitality. During this pandemic, my organization remained in close contact with the communities to support everyone's psychological and moral state. Going forward to continue our mission, we established a lot of strategies in terms of meeting our mission.
Hi everyone, my name is Alyssa DeGusto, Communications Manager at Person-Centered Care Services. Person-Centered Care Services is a not-for-profit organization creating social change within communities by supporting people with disabilities on their search for identity and acceptance. Our vision is to reconfigure humankind to be both genuine and authentic human beings for both disabled and non-disabled, and we're working to create a society of belonging and helping one another live a good life. Our impact is to provide support to the Staten Island community and the greater New York City area to help create and facilitate relationships, resulting in a more diverse community. In the midst of COVID-19, we've seen a real shift from traditional face-to-face services to non-traditional telehealth services. So whether it be through Zoom or FaceTime or Google Classrooms, our direct staff have been working really, really hard to provide those vital services that our individuals need. And we are really looking forward to seeing the positive outcome that this and all the opportunity that this holds for us. One big issue that we've definitely been finding is that funding is definitely a problem. Grant sourcing has been taking up a lot of our time, and we are really, really hopeful that some things come through. Thank you.
I certainly hope to be able to play a few more in a little bit, but right now I need to introduce Adrienne Abbate, who's going to talk about some of our board members who are leaving.
Thank you. So
I'm just going to share our screen for a second, Adrienne, okay?
Oh, sure.
Sorry about that.
Helpful.
Okay, here, let's... Okay.
We have slides to organize this. Yes, that's great. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah, so on behalf of the Board of Directors, we wanted to recognize the contributions of our recent outgoing board members, Andrea Brancato, Kevin Brosnick, Kathy Holliday, Ryan Licata, and Lou Tobacco, who all provided valuable input and really have helped guide the work of the Not-for-Profit Association. Can you advance? Oh, great. Oh, go one back. And we want to do a special acknowledgement to our outgoing board chair, Meg Ventrudo, who literally moved on to greener pastures in outer boroughs. She's now the executive director of the Woodlawn Conservancy in the Bronx. But she has, as many of you know, been the executive director of the Jacques Marchais Museum of Tibetan Art for 16 years and was one of the founding members of the Not-for-Profit Association, and just a dear friend to many of us within the association. So we miss Meg, and we are appreciative of everything that she contributed to SINFPA, and we thank her for her leadership this past year. I don't know if she was able to join us, but hopefully she'll be able to rotate in for the social aspect of the gathering later in this meeting. And now I'm going to pass it over to Arlene Sorkin, who's going to reflect on another one of
Don't forget to unmute.
This pandemic has affected everyone in some way. For those of us on the association board, it was the loss of a friend and former board member, Dominick Brancato. Most people know that he was the executive director of the New York Center for Interpersonal Development for 30 years. There were many posts on social media about what a wonderful mentor he was and how he brought people together to create a family culture at work. The words that people use to describe him are gentle, giving, humble, understanding, warm, and caring. My connection came to him through his son, Joseph, who was Illuminart Productions' first sound engineer. When he got a full-time job, Joe recommended a replacement, his best friend, Alan, who had spent a lot of time in their home over the last 20 years. So I asked Alan to tell me about Dominick. He also described Dom's warmth, love of travel, and inviting people over to sample his cooking. Alan said he loved planning the meals and unwinding from a day of work by cooking delicious dishes and pairing wines with the food. When Alan came over, Dom would always ask him how he was doing and offer advice. Dominick Brancato will be missed by all of the people whose lives he touched on Staten Island and beyond.
So it's my turn. I just need the slide to move forward. So I get to talk about David Sorkin. So he's sort of going, not really going, but he is retiring, and he is officially leaving the board as a board member in the capacity that he's been serving. I can't remember being on the nonprofit board without David. David, I can't remember. Were you a founding member along with me? You were, right?
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
You must have just gotten your job at the JCC because they practically coexisted. But all I can say is, I got to meet David at the Staten Island Not-for-Profit Association. I've always felt like I could turn to him when I needed some advice. He was one of the first people I would call. I see him as a role model, even though we're pretty much the same age. We pretty much have been in the business the same amount of years. I just feel like he approaches everything with this level of calmness, which sometimes escapes me. So David, I know that as a board, we have voted unanimously for you to stay on as an advisory board member. And we're so grateful that you're willing to do that. The COAD really was David's baby, and it's what not only, by the way, brought the Staten Island Not-for-Profit Association to where it was because it allowed us to hire another employee, but thank God for the COAD today. We had hoped that we would never see the need for the COAD, but always knew that we would. And I'll tell you, without David's work in the very beginning, I don't know if we would still have had the COAD. So I know for Eden 2, the COAD saved our lives. It was through the connections that we made there that got us the PPE we needed when no one else was getting it for us. So one thing I do want to say, David, I did not know that you went to both Temple University and Penn State University, both universities I actually teach course is that. So who knew? But anyhow, we're so grateful for all the work you've done, and thank you. And we look forward to your next role with the Staten Island Not-for-Profit Association. If this were a live meeting, I'd give you a big hug. Now I need to introduce Eileen Fuchs, because what we actually do at our annual meetings is we elect our new members. And so I'm turning it over to Eileen.
Great. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yes?
Loud and clear.
Yes.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, everyone. What wonderful acts to follow there. On behalf of the Board of Directors, so the Nominating Committee of the Staten Island Not-for-Profit Association is pleased to announce some election results. Board members vote for re-election of existing members and officers, and new board members are elected by the full association membership, and thus we are giving the opportunity for all participants at the meeting today to vote. First, on the officers, the board has selected the following board members for election to a one-year term beginning July 1st, 2020 and ending on June 30th, 2021. And they may be renewed up to 3 one-year terms. And so our illustrious chair, Adrienne Abbate, vice chair, Carol Bullock. We still have a vacant position of secretary, which we will reconvene on, and our treasurer, Samir Farag. For the re-election, the board has selected the following board members for re-election to a 3-year term, starting on July 1st, 2020. That's Laura Dellin from A Very Special Place, Linda Dianto from the National Lighthouse Museum, Samir Farag from SCORE, and John Malizia from Fishermen's Conservation Association. So for our new members, we are putting up this slate for election by the membership for a 3-year term starting July 1st. And I know we are all really excited about this slate. We have Candace Gonzalez, the Chief Executive Officer for New York Center for Interpersonal Development, Agnes M. Falak-Kamara, from the founder and president, Straight from the Heart International, Orit Lender, the incoming CEO for JCC of Staten Island, Jennifer Litton-Hirsch, the Chief Operating Officer of Community Health Action of Staten Island, and Frederick Stefani, the President and CEO of the Migration Resource Center. So the board has already cast our vote here. So if any members in good standing who are eligible to vote have any concerns with this slate, please private message Sharmila in the chat box. And otherwise, if not, we are pleased to announce our new board members for the coming fiscal year, and I know we're all really excited to work with you.
Not getting any comments so far, so you got 10 seconds, folks. Otherwise, I think we can, Joanne. Yeah.
So while we're waiting a second or two, I just also want to thank John Malizia for all the work he's done as our treasurer for the last 3 years, or however many years. It's a lot of work, and so we owe him a debt of gratitude. Now, normally I would go to some more member spotlights, but we are really running towards the end, and I want to save at least a few minutes for everybody to have a chance to talk, and maybe we could the new members of the board could introduce themselves. But before we do that, I want to introduce Laura Dellin, who's just going to talk to you for a few minutes about upcoming events.
Just one moment before we pass the torch to Laura, just putting on the screen all of our board members for the coming year. And I wanted to also take a moment. We've talked a lot about the COAD and our medical ecosystem. I don't know how many of them are on the call today. We have a lot going on, even though we're not in extreme crisis mode. Our COAD and our medical ecosystem are still very busy. We meet every day. So I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the leadership of that COAD. Joanne's addressed the founder and chair, David. It really, I mean, he's been an incredible mentor and partner to me and all of us. Our current leadership, and we look forward, we're not letting you go, David. You're still going to help us get to the next level here of our work. This crisis, if it showed us anything, it's that we have a lot more to do. But our co-chairs, Shirley Dunn from Eden 2 and Joe Tornello from Meals on Wheels are the COAD co-chairs. And then we have a medical ecosystem subcommittee that's led by Tina Campbell from Rumsey and Dr. Ginny Mantello from the Staten Island Borough President's Office. So just wanted to acknowledge them for a moment. Okay, take it away, Laura.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Laura Dellin. I am the Program Committee Chair. I just want to make sure that everybody's still muted. That should be muted. So just check and make sure, because I got to be honest with you, I've been on so many Zooms, I'm sure you all have too, and I think we're doing a really good job of staying muted and not hearing background noise. So I want to thank everybody for that. I'm almost at the finish line. So you'll be able to unmute yourself real soon to be able to socialize. But I just want to go over a couple of upcoming events that the Staten Island Not-for-Profit Association is looking to do. So we're continuing our peer exchanges. You might have seen a lot of our e-blasts going out. They're also known as virtual teas. They're a great group. Right now, Fundraising and Development is meeting every other Wednesday, but we'd like to add other groups. So if you're interested in starting to formulate another type of virtual tea, if you're coffee drinkers or soda drinkers and you want to switch up the beverage, if it's after 5 though, we'll have to talk about that. Let us know, let Sharmila know, because we'd love to have other groups formulate. Something else that's coming up next week at 2 o'clock is Lisa Bronner from Proman and Proman is going to do a workshop with us on how to reopen workplaces legally and safely. And I think this is going to be a great program. And this is even for not-for-profits that have been open. You're an essential employer. You've been open this whole time. Come to this too, because as being one of those essential employers at a very special place, we have a lot of work to do to make sure that we're continuing to operate safely. And we all do as not-for-profits going forward. So come join us for that. There was an email blast that went out on that. So make sure you register ahead of time. Also too, just as I segue to the next slide, Sharmila, if you don't mind. If you're not getting e-blasts, they're great. They go out all the time. Sharmila does an amazing job. Make sure that you tell Sharmila that you want to be on the e-blasts. For a lot of nonprofits, I think it might just be some leadership positions that get the e-blasts, and sometimes they may not trickle down. So we want to make sure that everybody's getting them. So make sure that you tell her if you're not getting them and sign up. In July, again, like Sharmila said, we have a great partnership with the Nonprofit New York group, and they are going to be doing a program on financial sustainability and advocacy updates. So stay tuned. They'll probably be having the date come out soon. On July 8th at 10, we have a workshop coming up about accessibility preparedness for community organizations and becoming a disability ally. And that's being hosted by New York City Emergency Management, PCCS, and Staten Island Community Organizations, our COAD. So again, register for that coming up. Next, we have the COAD. Anybody can come to the COAD meetings. So, and in fact, I've started to sit on them as well, because like Joanne said, the COAD has been a great ally for us with information and supplies of PPE during this pandemic. So join us, come sit in and learn more information about not only what they're doing for pandemic, but we've been doing other things as well. So it's a great group, and join us for that. And those are some of the upcoming dates of the next meetings. This is our last slide just to go over before we're going to start to ask you some questions. So as we all know, I think for now, including this, we're going to kind of be living in a virtual world until we get to a point where it's safe for us to come back and be with each other together in larger numbers. So we're planning on doing a full webinar workshop series that will focus on, still concerns with COVID-19. Unfortunately, it's not going to be going away anytime soon. Again, about safely reopening and just resiliency of the nonprofit community. Also, another topic very important that we want to start to address even more than what we have been doing is social justice, equity, and anti-racism training. We're also going to do some upcoming virtual on board governance, and also continuing our fundraising and resource development workshops. So as Sharmila had said before, our conference was supposed to be in May. It was supposed to be our 10-year conference. It was supposed to be, 2020 and beyond, preparing for a decade of nonprofit resilience and strength. Well, boy, do we need to continue in that forefront to be resilient and have strength. And so we are going to keep up with trying to follow CDC guidelines, state guidelines and regulations. We think that the conference will probably be 2021 in person again. We're going to do a lot of things virtual in between, but we hope that, at some point in 2021, we'll be able to all join together and do the conference the way we would normally do it. And that's also for the Community Service Awards. Again, that's another large gathering that we usually do. So we want to make sure that we do it the right way and make sure that everybody's safe. So stay tuned. We'll keep you posted. That being said, we kind of want to poll our viewers. So we want to hear from you just on a couple of quick questions due to shortness of time. I think we're only going to do 3, right, Sharmila?
Give me a moment to launch the poll. Okay, here we go. This is for all of you to answer. Do you see it on the screen or no?
Nope.
How about now?
Nope.
Okay, what do I need to do to get it? Oh, get ready. Here we go.
Okay. Can everybody see that now? I don't even see heads nodding. That's good. I think they might see it. Okay, so do you think you'll be ready to gather for in-person workshops when we enter phase 3 or 4? And we might actually be able to do so if we do it with masks and social distancing. So meaning, will you want to? Would you come in person?
All right, I'm going to give you, we got a lot of people on the phone, on the line, so I'm going to give people some time here.
I feel like we needed Jeopardy music playing in the background.
We do. That would be great.
Yeah. I am not going to start singing. It's not happening.
So Lakimja says, that's great, Lakimja, I didn't know that. Nonprofit New York is not allowing anyone in their offices until January of 2021.
Thank you. And yes, there are some also, the Better Business Bureau is doing the same thing as well. That's kind of why we're trying to take a feel of
And they're in the Ford Foundation building, I might add. But yeah, sorry to interrupt. Yeah. Okay, I think we're almost there.
Can I have that date again, please?
Say that again, David. Oh, David, you're on mute.
Okay, what is the date for the people who are not allowed in?
Sorry, your question's breaking up, David.
I think he wants to know when phase 3, 4 is that what you're asking? Of when this reopening would be, like time-wise?
Okay. I don't believe we have a date yet.
I heard
what was the date you just gave?
It was January 2021.
That's some of our partners in Manhattan. The Ford Foundation houses Nonprofit New York, as well as a few other initiatives. And Eileen is saying July 6th is supposed to be phase 3.
That's correct. I heard that.
Here's our results from this question. Do you see that, Laura?
I do. Okay. Should I read that or does everybody see it?
Everybody sees it.
Okay, good. Thanks, Joanne.
I think, yes.
Okay, good. Oh yeah, I'm getting a lot of nodding loud from afar. Okay, great. Okay, we ready for the next question?
Yeah.
Yes, but knowing that July 6th is phase 3, I would have answered that differently. That seems like next week to me.
I'm ready.
What we'll probably do too is that for some of the questions we weren't able to do, we might try to do a survey after on an e-blast just to try to capture more. Okay, here's your next question. What virtual workshop topics are you interested in? And if there's an other, then type it in the chat box. But I think for Sharmila, we can click more than one on this one.
Yes.
Yes.
Not letting me click any.
Because we're co-hosting.
Oh.
And if it doesn't let you click more than one, yeah, I'm seeing that you can only click one, too.
Oh, oh no. Oops. All right. See, here's a technical difficulty. Well, if you could use the chat box, or maybe when we chat in a minute, to add in.
To be like, what is your most important one? Let's pick that. What would be the most important to you? All right, how are we doing, Sharmila?
All right, I think everyone good? We got about 75. Well, people are still coming in here. Okay, well, I will end it now and share results. Okay. Do you see that? Okay. Fundraising, resource development continues to be hot topic.
Okay. And maybe people would like to see it that we do fundraising and resource development, especially during COVID-19 too, because I know it's a continuous uphill struggle for a lot of us. Okay, next question. How soon does your organization plan to reopen? I know we have a lot of choices on this one, so make sure you kind of try to read them all before answering. And again, if none of the above are what you're doing, click other and give us the answer in the chat box.
Okay. All right.
How'd we do?
There we go. Can you see that?
Okay.
All right.
We got a lot of others, so I hope the answers are in the chat box. I haven't been checking. Okay, yes, I see people are writing. Okay, that's good.
All righty.
Okay.
Is there anything else?
No, well, thank you, everyone. I promise there's no more questions. We'll send the rest out because I know we're being conscious of time. So thank you, everybody. And I'm going to pass it back to Adrienne and Sharmila.
Thank you. I just want to, before we go into because I know Joanne is ready for the social hour, I just want to take a moment to thank all of you, our members, as well as our sponsors, our donors, our volunteers and supporters this past year. It has been a challenging year, unlike any other, and we know that we could not have done it without you. From last year's annual meeting, we had the Community Service Awards, we've had multiple events, we've had emerging leaders, we've had COVID-19, and we have a lot more work to do together. I'll give you a moment on this screen, but Joanne, you can take us into our next part of the meeting. And before I do that, I do want to extend my own personal gratitude to Joanne. She really was the brains and the motion behind this virtual annual meeting, which if it were up to me, it would have been, I don't know, over the phone. So Joanne and her team at Eden, as well as Carol Bullock, Eileen Fuchs, Adrienne, and Arlene as our planning committee, I am so grateful to you and the rest of the board for the support through these challenging times at your own organizations. You never stopped being there for me and the association and our members. And this meeting, I have to say, I'm pretty impressed. So far, it's gone pretty smoothly. So congratulations and thank you.
All right. So it is time for people to, we really don't have that much time left. Otherwise, we would have broken us into little breakout rooms, but you should just, if you want to just say something, now is the time. First of all, I'd like to propose a toast. I don't know if you can see my glass because it disappeared into the fountain at Snug Harbor, but I hope you all will raise a glass. I'd like to welcome our new board members. I would like to, again, very much send kudos out to Sharmila for all the work that she's done.
Thank you.
I want to hear from you. Unmute yourself if you want to say something. Now's the time.
Thank you for making me come here. I appreciate.
Great.
Cheers.
Welcome, Agnes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jamila.
Yes, we should welcome our newest board members who are on and still on. We're excited to get to work with you. And of course, our existing board members are here today too.
So, hi,
Thank you.
Candace.
Hi, it's Candace from NYCID. Thank you so much for voting me in as a new board member. I'm excited to get started. And I just want to really acknowledge that beautiful tribute to Dominick, and also for your generous contribution in his honor. I was very touched by that, and I just wanted to say my thanks.
Jennifer, I think you wanted to say something?
Yes, hi.
Thanks. I'm so impressed that that was like a great meeting, since it was like an hour and a half Zoom. That's not easy to pull that off and stay engaging, especially with so many people and virtually. So nice job and thank you. I'm excited and I look forward to working with you all.
Great.
Thank you. Yeah, this is Frederick from Migration Resource Center. Thank you again. It was a great meeting. It was. I'm very excited to be part of the board and to work and get the tasks and ready to be on. And thanks for Arlene Sorkin that actually introduced me to Staten Island non-for-profit. My organization has been almost 3 years members of this association. We are very grateful and helpful. I want to just say that we did receive a lot of help from the association in the past. And now I'm a board member. I really appreciate that. And it's excited to start and work. Thank you.
Thank you. By the way, I just want to give a cheer to David Lefkowitz. The volunteer heart ambulance never closed. And so you guys sent us a video. We're going to make sure everybody gets to see that over the next few weeks. And all of you who sent videos, they were terrific. So.
Hi, it's David. I just want to thank everybody for the kind words. It's really been a labor of love over all these many years. And most of you know, if you come to meetings, Arlene and I sit on the other side of the room. But as you can see, we really do live together.
Yeah. Hi, this is Orreed, everyone. Congratulations to all. It was a fabulous meeting. Excited to be on the board and working with all of you. I know it's challenging times, but I am also extremely hopeful for our future and believe in our nonprofit industry and know that the community is grateful for all the work that everyone does. And so thank you for letting me be a part of it. I also want to congratulate David on an amazing 15-year run here at the JCC, and it has been an honor and a privilege to work alongside him for all those years. So not only is the Staten Island non-for-profit blessed to hold on to him, but we're also extremely pleased that he'll be playing a senior advisor role here for the JCC for the next year. So we're really excited about that as well. So congratulations, David.
To all the members, by the way, we didn't announce this early enough, but if there's a member out there that's interested in joining any one of our committees, our program committee could certainly use guidance. By the way, the new board members that just got elected, don't worry, you'll get your committee. But you can join any committee as a member. You don't have to be a board member. It's a great way to get involved.
So
David Lefkowitz, you're up. You just need to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Joanne. Volunteer Heart, I just want to let everybody know, Volunteer Heart Ambulance during this whole crisis never closed. We had crews out there on the streets. We were involved with the FDNY Mutual Aid. Our crews did multiple tours, sometimes around the clock. We were posted in Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, Brooklyn, We were sent to the Bronx, but they turned us back because of the response time. But our crews did a fantastic job. And I just want to give them kudos to let everybody know that we were out there. We were one of the very few corps that were out there and did a wonderful job.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Fern, I think you had something to say.
Yeah, thanks, Joanne. I just want to say I was so glad to get the announcement about this event and to see everybody. You know, those of you who know me, I think the majority of you, and I was one of the founding members of the Not-for-Profit Association and the COAD, and that it's grown. It's just absolutely wonderful. And I want to say to David that semi-retirement is not a bad thing. Kind of get used to it, but wonderful seeing everybody.
So we are really out of time. If there's anybody that wants to have any last minute comments, we could probably go a few minutes extra. Thankfully, we didn't have to pay for the room. John, go ahead.
Great job. You guys did a great job. I'm proud of it. And I'm looking forward to work with you guys the rest of the year.
Awesome.
If anyone wants to stay in the room, we'll play that video that was in the beginning of the, the screen to close out, but it'll be available on our Facebook page and website later on as well. It's a tribute to the activities of this past year in pictures. So you can look out for that.
Everybody be safe and be well.
Thank you. Thank you all. To be continued.